Benvenuti a un altro episodio di Digital Download. Oops. Sorry, guys, got carried away. Good afternoon, good morning, and good day, wherever you may be joining us from. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated on TuneIn Radio through IBGR, the world's #1 business talk, news, and strategy radio network. Today, we are delving into the fascinating journey of Tony Nneke, a man who's carved out his own path to success. From his early aspirations in the music industry to his current role as a sales account executive at Salesforce, Tony's story is one of resilience, adaptability, and embracing the unexpected. But before we bring Tony on, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. While we're doing this, why don't you in the audience reach out to a friend, ping them, and have them join us? We strive to make the digital download an interactive experience. Audience participation is highly encouraged. Adam, would you like to kick us off, please?
Hi, everybody. I'm Adam Gray. I'm co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm very much looking forward to today's chat with our dear friend, Tony. I always find that these weekly shows are fascinating because we cover such a diverse breadth of topics. You know, not just people's area of expertise, but what they talk about, what their passions are. You know, we've had everything from being entrepreneurial through to running your own worm farm on the digital download. And I just love the fact that the audience never know quite what they're going to get when they turn up.
It's a little bit of fresh air in our week, I agree. Thanks
Absolutely.
for that, Adam. Tim.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Tim Hughes, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. And I'm also famous for writing the book, Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers.
Thanks for that. Thanks, Tim. As I said, this week on the Digital Download, we'll speak with Tony. His journey is a testament of the power of perseverance, self-belief, and embracing the twists and turns of that life throws your way, or our way, sorry. His insights will inspire you to rethink your own career trajectory and discover new possibilities for growth and fulfillment. Let's bring him on. Tony, good morning and welcome.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, welcome.
Tony, let's start by having you telling us a little bit more about you, your background, and what got you where you are today.
Wow. First of all, thank you for the intro. I was thinking, who is this person they're speaking of? That's so But a bit about me. Tony Nneke, 45 years old, father of 3, married 16 years, and been my wife for 22 years. That's what I always say sometimes to customers, etc. But background, I'm a lover of music, always have been. I dabble in poetry, which I share on LinkedIn. Prior to that, I had aspirations of conquering the music industry. I say with a smile now, but I was very serious when I was 14, 15, 16. That was my goal. I was performing around London, writing lyrics, writing songs. I was in a group, and I learned a lot about myself in that phase of life. Just meeting new people, networking, but pushing yourself out there and not really having a plan, just kind of driven on impulse and passion of just wanting to do this and share what I believe was talent as well. Then there's a business side of it that I need to learn. So I better go uni, and realized there's some university courses on this, which surprised me. And that's actually where I met my wife. Ironically, I put a flyer for an event I was promoting in her car. I will say when I lived in London, I was sort of ignorant. What I mean by that is I didn't drive, and that's not why I was ignorant. But what I mean is train stations everywhere. Every road in London was a train station. Didn't need to drive, so I didn't really know how cars work. So when I put the flyer in her windscreen and it made the noise, I thought I'd set that off, but she'd obviously seen me from from far. Unfortunately, do a running joke, and that's how we kind of started speaking. I apologized, and she said it's fine, and we started conversating. But long story short, I did the music course there, and then let's say romantics, and year or two down the line, I'm going to be a dad. It's like, okay, I'm on student loans. I'm working part-time at Lidl's. I'm getting benefits for apartment I'm staying in London. I need to kind of really rethink this. Well, actually, not even rethink, think now what I'm doing. So I decided that I needed to embark on a professional career, or what I deem professional in terms of, I say, the corporate world, and less maverick, and see if I can kind of transfer any talents that I might have learned into the corporate world. And that's kind of what led me to where I am today, really. So when you talk about kind of navigating, I didn't have this master plan. It was just more, in my opinion, needing to do the right thing, follow my passion initially, and then it's like, okay, how can I do right for my soon-to-be child that's not asked to be here, and my girlfriend at the time, who's obviously now leaning on me, saying, well, do you have a plan? How do we do this? And convincing her that staying with me is the right thing to do as well. So that's kind of what led me here, and a little bit of my background and what I try to share on LinkedIn and people I speak to.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Tony. Hi, David. Thank you for joining. Tony, let's start with a foundational question. What advice would you give to young professionals facing unexpected life changes that may disrupt their career plans?
Thinking straight back to me. One, it's not the end of the world, which I don't know about you, but I was very much more dramatic when I was younger. So like, what do I do now? My life is over. Like I was, as I said, I was just going to be a musician. I didn't think of anything else whatsoever. So like so then to even think about navigating this, like who do I know? Like how? So I feel like first and foremost, just know it's not the end of the world. Try and view this as an opportunity to do something different, maybe something new, or even something that you maybe wanted to have done, but not thought you needed to do. So I think try to see the opportunity, try and see it as a positive, and just know that that's time to then start speaking to other people. That's what I did. I started to think about, okay, well, what industries are good to go into? So I started to speak to people who I thought are doing well for themselves, very successful. How did you do it? How did you get into the professional world? What qualifications did you follow? Who did you speak to? So I think start to do that. I think the more you start to take action and those positive steps to move forward, the less of a negative impact it can be on you, because you're kind of taking a bit of control as opposed to it's happening to you. And I know for me, it was very much, this is happening to me. What do I do? And very, was very sort of scared at the time.
And that's so you were in a situation where you were, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be a musician, and therefore that was in effect the swim lane that you were in. You weren't looking for anything else.
Yep.
And so when you had to pivot, you actually went to your network or friends and say, so what do you do?
Yeah. I was very single-minded, like I said. So in my head was, if you're going to do something, you have to believe that you are it, even if you're not like where you think you should be. You got to believe you're, either the best or you're this great musician, whatever. So when people were doing what they were doing in other professions, I never really used to ask questions. I didn't sort of want to know, because I'm like, well, I'm going to be an artist, so I just want to know you as a person, but I don't need to know about your job or what you do for a living. And so I just didn't really ask those type of questions. So when it then dawned on me that I might need to sort of navigate in a different direction, I started to ask questions, and it opened up my eyes to I'm gonna call it a whole new world, not to sound cliche, but you start to learn what they do, and it was like, wow, I didn't know this. I just used to hang out and maybe talk football, or I'll show my music to you, and and I thought, what kind of person was I? I just didn't really ask them about what they're doing day to day. So I had to ask these questions, and by doing that, they advised me, oh, maybe we're going to go into IT, and then I learned there's whole different rafts of roles within IT and different professions and different companies, and it just opened up my eyes. So in one aspect, it forced me to dig a bit deeper into people and learn and build deeper connections than just what I liked.
One of the things that I find really interesting is how you have developed over the last couple of years as an individual. So, and I think that sharing your journey around this might be really helpful for other people that are facing, I guess, business challenges.
Yeah.
So you know, you're within a well-respected organization. You're doing really well. You've got a very clearly defined job role, and all of the stuff that defines you as a person. So the music, the poetry, the family man, the commitment to the people that you love, all of that stuff, you've kind of put that in a holdall and zipped it up and put it in the corner of the face that you show to the world.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you go on this journey of self-discovery, and all of a sudden you realize that those things that you thought weren't relevant are the very things that make you really attractive to people. And you know, you start to share your poetry and people going, oh my god, this is amazing, I really love this. And I remember when you sent me your Spotify music, it's like, yeah, here's what I did, and I played it to my son, and he's like, oh my god, this is really good stuff. And that stuff that irrespective of where, I mean, and you're obviously very good at those things, but irrespective of whether you're good or bad at those things, they define you as a person, because those are the things that you choose to do rather than are forced to do.
Yeah.
So how does somebody that is in a role and wants to start to differentiate themselves, how do they bring those things that define them forward and start to share who they really are and all of the benefits that brings?
That's a very good question. How? I think they need to think about the types of relationships they want to build with people, and that's whether it's colleagues or customers or just generally, right? Because and I know we said this before, Adam, but it's if you meet someone for the first time, how would you approach them? And then you want to, the more you can be yourself, then the more people will gravitate to you, hopefully, or the more of your clan, let's say, will gravitate to you, and you can start to be yourself. And the more you're yourself, then again, the deeper and the better conversations you have. So I think you've got to start there in terms of what type of relationships do you want, you know? And yes, I work in sales, but you just generally don't want a sort of a transactional relationship, right? You know, where I've had friends who we're no longer friends as such now, but where it's like you feel like you're the giver, they're the taker. So you're not gaining anything, you're not learning anything, and they're just taking this. So it's maybe transactional. You want a connection and rapport building. So I think the more you give of yourself, that you should receive that back in time. Because obviously you have to go through what I call bad eggs, bad apples, etc. until then they weren't the right people or whatever. So I think it's taking that first step just to be more honest. But you have to start by what types of sort of relationships do I want with my customers, my prospects. Whether it's someone I meet on LinkedIn, how authentic I want to be, and then you generally will start to receive that back. And equally, then for me, it's less of a charade, because when I first started, I was being somebody that I'm not, and I thought I needed to be that because for acceptance or what have you. But there's only so many times you can sort of keep up that lie yourself. So actually, it's a bit refreshing and relieving to be like, this is me. It's what I like, stuff I'm into. Let's talk about it and go from there. Hope that answers that question.
So how scary was that when you first kind of opened that box and said to people, here's who I am? How did you feel when you started to do that?
The anxiety levels were through the roof. Let's just say that. They were through the roof. So yeah, I felt very nervous, and a lot of it was just my own judgment. I said, I built this thing. Like, you mustn't do this. You must be this way. So I was going against my own code, my own programming. So it didn't compute. It's like, what are you doing? So all the signals of trying to protect me was coming from me, let alone what I thought might be negative comments or what have you. So there was that, and then there's an image that you think you're portraying that you then think being your authentic self might break, and then so very, very nerve-wracking. But it was interesting because a lot of it was just inner thoughts like, well, how much do you value this image that you've built up that's not really you? Then like, why are you holding on to that? Like, be yourself and see what happens. What's sort of the worst that can happen? And it feels better now, because it means if when I do my poems, I don't sort of feel a way to do. I don't feel like, oh, it's not the right platform or environment, because I've been doing it. So it enables me to continue being myself and be more comfortable in who I am, or who I'm choosing to be.
So can I share something with you, Tony?
Yeah, of course, Tim.
Yeah. Okay. So this week, I was very lucky to go and see the new Led Zeppelin film, Becoming Led Zeppelin. And in it, Robert Plant talks about writing lyrics. And he talks about the vulnerability of writing lyrics, because quite often you're talking about the things around you.
Yes.
And when he was talking about that, I thought about you.
Oh, wow.
And I thought about, and I remember the first time that you shared one of your lyrics, one of your poems, and you said you did a video about, this is where I write my poetry. It's a safe
place. Yeah.
And I remember it because I remember it being, it was a bit like you stepping off a roof and you know, expecting everyone to reject you and say, these are terrible, Tony, this is rubbish, you know, get back to being a salesperson. And it didn't happen. Everyone said, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability, and I thought about you, and there I was sitting in the IMAX at Waterloo thinking about you, and I just remember that, and I just remember the difference that you know, 1 minute you're Tony the salesperson, and now you're Tony with vulnerabilities, and actually the Tony with vulnerabilities is more attractive.
Yeah. You got to. Yeah, I mean, I say this now. I feel it's always good to see yourself in somebody, right? And so how I just feel like, how do you connect? So if you can talk through things that other people have experienced, maybe from different perspectives, then they're more likely to resonate, have a different point of view, but still on the same subject. Otherwise, it's just a shield, a barrier you're sort of putting up, right? So it was definitely a breakthrough moment for me in that regard, just to as I said, to be more comfortable in who I am and sharing it, and breaking my own stereotypes that I've believed.
And
Tony,
I was just going to say, and does it feel like more fun? You know, going to work and checking in now, does it feel like more fun, seeing as you're kind of bring your whole self to the party?
Yeah, I think. I think people. I feel like people know me more, or feel like they can make a connection more. Because my thing's always been, as I said, we've all got different stereotypes we keep in my head. So I've always had this thing, for whatever reason, of not being seen as approachable. You know, we can delve into why that is, but I've always sort of had this thing. And as in my head, I think it's come from a time when I said into music. But even when I got to music, I used to write about like the experiences of like struggle and feeling frustrated and disengaged with the world. My music was sort of on those type of topics, and so then I used to, in my head anyway, count myself like serious. Life is serious, and I've got to show people that I'm tough, and so I've always had this. So I feel like when I'm now able to sort of share the poetry and some sort of daily thoughts in my head, in my mind, I'm like, oh, well, they're saying, oh, Tony's all right. He's not this moody, serious person who's like, be careful what you say because he'll take it the wrong way or personal. But I'm not saying that I experienced that, but that's in my head. So it helps me to kind of unravel that as well. So yeah, I feel like that guard is dropped for sure.
Tony, you just said a few minutes ago, and I've written this down, by the way. So you said, you know, it depends what type of relationships you want to create.
Yes.
And what I'd like to ask is, have you seen any changes in the way, in the relationships that you build with your customers? Do you have evidences of that?
I mean, for me, I
mean, prospects as well.
Yeah. I tell more of me when in stories. So what I mean is, those that I'm building rapport with will know about my music and my poetry. You could argue whether that's a good thing or not, but like they don't just think, oh, that's Tony who sells MuleSoft and you know, that's Tony waiting to see what he can sell. We can talk about, you know, real stuff as well. If they're comfortable to or not, but that's kind of the approach I have. So and I'm more comfortable doing that now, and I feel with that you learn about people and you connect, right? And I think it should be two-way. Yes, I know there's a process about what you're trying to sell, etc. But outside of that, you're talking to the person, you want them to. Well, I hope anyway that they enjoy our conversations. Apart from sometimes you might have difficult conversations, obviously, about programs. But generally speaking, you want to look forward to speaking to somebody because you're giving up your time. So I try to bring more of me to that to make sure at least they have that as well as any value that I'm bringing to them. That's for them to decide. But that's so yeah. So I definitely see more of that. Conversation I can tell you about what they're into and things like that. And you'd argue that's normal, but for me, that's definitely something that I've been doing more of.
Well, I don't think that is normal though, because I think that most people they hide behind the brand and what they do rather than who they are. And you know we have a number of individuals that we know that are so. One gentleman, he's out in the Far East, and he said that when he meets a prospect for the first time, he said it's kind of a bit creepy sometimes because they know like everything about me. Yeah. And do you find that the fact that you share not private stuff, but you share personal stuff, does that accelerate the path of getting to know a prospect? Because you know so often everybody knows about the know, like, trust journey that a prospect goes on, and it's only when they trust you and they like you that they're ever actually going to do business with you.
Yeah.
And does this accelerate that so you get to that point sooner?
It helps for sure. It does help. I think, but I think the more open you are or personal, and they are too. As I said, it's two-way. Then I think the more open and honest conversation you can have, and that's what you really want to do, right? Because ultimately, I'm there to try and help my prospects and customers. So the more I understand what their pain points are and the challenges, as well as obviously who they are as a person, then the more I'm going to learn, and then therefore the more I'm able to help them, and vice versa. I think there's a trust. So I am seeing that, and it's interesting because I had a recent call, a personal call, but I think it was to do with my phone. Yeah, it was my phone, and I just remember I listened to them, and I was trying to be a good customer myself. I remember coming to the phone thinking they were just selling to me. There was nothing personal whatsoever. I mean, they'd leave that call probably feeling they were professional. Probably the call was recorded, and that they'll be graded on asking the right stuff and about due for upgrades. But there was nothing about me at all, and I mean not even small talk, just very much actual business. And I thought, Jesus, that is terrible. And then I look back about, was I ever like that? So for me now, I'm that it's always in my mind is just to act like you're speaking to a person and be open and honest, and it does help. You do build rapport.
But if that's recorded, it's probably beaten out of them, isn't it?
Well,
because being personal is actually a wasted time, isn't it? Because what we need to be doing is spending our time pitching.
Yeah.
And I'm being sarcastic.
Yeah. I know. It drives the wrong behaviors. Absolutely. It does. And again, like, it's no coincidence as I'm, let's say, more mature in life, that I'm more comfortable sort of being myself. Because when I was younger, I had this perception of how you needed to be. And again, this is my own perception. Some people might say, I was personal then, perhaps, but I didn't think I was, and I didn't feel like I should be, per se. And it was always in my mind, I think I'm stepping out of the comfort zone, whereas now we're moving towards, I'm making this my comfort zone and getting used to being uncomfortable. But it's just, you're talking to a human being. So I always put that in the forefront of my mind. It's a human person who wants to do well in their job. So if there's a challenge, they want to fix that for their own job and their own organization, and you're there to help. So, you know, let's meet in the middle ground and have that conversation in a humane way, if that makes sense.
Interesting again. So you talked about, you know, your when you were basically starting in that business. Did you have any mentors or any you know, people who have really, you know, impressed you or basically you know, serve as examples, as role models, you could say, or even people who have acted as mentors?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that, because I may have not mentioned that, so I'm glad you've given the opportunity to do that. I've had many people help me, for sure. Like when you talk about the unexpected path to success, and mine was, and it's all because people saw something in me that I just didn't see in myself. And I know that sounds cliche, but I think I've always been tenacious, and I've had people tell me that's a good thing, and then they've championed me. So I always say to people, and you ask, I think this was asked earlier about, you know, someone starting out in a journey, seek out champions. And I know that's very difficult to do, but I've had many champions sort of give me advice on presentations, give me advice on obviously product knowledge, and also the best advice was be yourself. You know, you're a likable character, believe in yourself, and etc. And know, sort of knowing what I needed to hear at the time. So sometimes it's not about the skill set of production; it's about maybe it's imposter syndrome. So they're encouraging you there. Others, it might be, okay, we need to refine him here. You know, so I've always had people shape me with their best interest at heart, not bashing me, not, you know, the other way around. So boosting my confidence, better for the team. So yes, I've had many, too many people to sort of thank. But in my unexpected journey, I've had unofficial mentors, people who've taken me under their wing, and sometimes the best things I've had is just unexpected conversations in the corridor. You know, so as I said, my perception of the corporate world was blown in a positive way, because I've had many people in the corporate world help me and encourage and champion me. So yeah, absolutely, I've had mentors, and couldn't be here without that. Even those who've hired me in roles, you know, seen something, and champion the way I do approaches. If it sometimes it's been a bit different. No, he's onto something, and we'll work with him. So yeah, absolutely, I've had it. I think you need it. No man is an island, and it's true to that. You know.
Yeah. So you obviously you are leading with who you are, and I mean, I love your LinkedIn headline. A very interesting chap, a rather interesting chap, which I think is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But that kind of route to market, you know, not being a grey suit wearing corporate clone, is at odds with a lot of large organizations. So, you know, you're at a big company now, and prior to that you were at a big company, and prior to that you were at a big company. So you know the kind of the large enterprise space very well in terms of working within that environment. And how is this kind of attitude being received, and how has that changed over the 10 years that you've been working in multi-billion-dollar companies? I mean, is it more accepted now, or is it still a challenge?
Great question. I think it's more accepted now. I think you've only got to go on LinkedIn as an example and see there's many sort of videos out there, from motivational talks to snippets, different approaches of how someone's articulating an event, case studies. So I think there's definitely more advocacy for ways to reach people, engage people, for sure. And again, I think even in the workplace culture, there's a lot more emphasis over the last 10 years around, you know, workplace culture being kind of epicenter for positive productivity if you get it right, and therefore embracing people's culture would then be kind of the diversity in their thoughts and their approaches. So I do see positive change in that space. I think what's interesting is the social selling is encouraged, but it's obviously still, in my opinion, at an individual layer, if that makes sense. So it's not, because not everyone's comfortable speaking, sharing their thoughts online, on video, or even just doing a sort of a personal post, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And for different reasons. And some, as I said, don't see maybe that is professional. Some think, oh, maybe they don't think they're interested enough. I don't know. So I think you'll see that increase over the next sort of 2 to 3 years, I believe. The more there's positive reaction for, let's say, the so-called prospect. Because when I look from the customer base, they share a lot of their stories. You know, they'll share what they've done on the weekend. They'll talk about, they're at this event. They do it a lot. So, and the sellers, I think, are kind of catching on. But that's what I see. I see people who I follow on LinkedIn, and they are sharing a lot of what you deem as personal stuff. So I do think it's catching on, because I think people want to connect, and I think that the lockdown scenario, COVID, over the last sort of 4 years, accelerated that. I think for people, the idea of connecting and being more personable, showing up as who you are. Sort of life's too short. Going for what you want and leading on who you are. I think more people are attuned to that more than ever now. So there's definitely a culture shift. I hope that answers your question. I kind of feel like I went on a tangent there, but certainly I do see.
No, not at all. But I think that, you know, one of the things that we so, you know, we have to sell stuff as well. So one of the things that we sometimes get as a pushback is that, you know, my customers aren't on social, which clearly isn't the case, because everyone's on social. But perhaps more concerning is that people say, or on occasion people say, yeah, I don't engage with any personal content. I don't like to see personal content on a business network. I only engage with business content. And I mean, ironically, that seems not to be the case, because even the people that say that, you know, they're the ones that drop a like on a happy birthday or congratulations for your promotion or whatever.
Yeah.
But is that something that you're kind of struggling with, either internally or externally, you know, when you're engaging with people, that they find this a turn off rather than a turn on?
If they, so I'm going to say no in the first instance. I mean, if they are, that's not sort of being made clear to me. So you know, it's obviously if they turn off, they made, you know, you'd argue, if you sort of do like a connect request and it's still pending, then maybe that's their way of saying, ooh, you know, if they both fights, that's the turn off. You never know. But in terms of engagement, no, I said that. So I think people want to know people. So you know, it's like what everyone normally does, right? I'm sure you go on LinkedIn, you view someone's profile. So you want to know about where they worked, but you want to see if you know a little bit about them as a person automatically. So that's why I think the more you show yourself, then they get a sense of, I won't say familiarity, but just, they can decide if they want to engage, if they like that person. This was really generally what they do. Oh, he or she seems likable, and then they're open to kind of have a conversation. So, you know, what I'll say to the statement around, I don't really respond to sort of personal content. I mean, that's their choice, right? But I know when I've been in meetings, which and it's throughout my career, where it's, you know, it's serious conversation and it's about challenges and, you know, and that stuff. I'm going to say 95% of the time you're having personal conversations there too. You know, that's face to face, and you're still saying you haven't, whether it's football, golf, whatever it is, there's personal commentary in these really, really important mission critical meetings. So to me, it's a natural sense to then be familiar with that kind of online, right? As long as you're not revealing anything sort of from a business perspective. So that's what I say to that as well. If you're going to be like that, online. I can understand to an extent, but then you should be like that in your face-to-face meetings. And generally speaking, you're not. So so that's my point to that, is to actually be authentic to where you are online as well as you are in person, because it's the same thing. It's the icebreaker. Then it's actually about making people feel relaxed and actually are warm, friendly, and then having the serious bits that you need to discuss.
Yeah, I mean it's the nice thing about it is that it's so kind of natural. So
Yeah.
so how about this, right? You're in your sales role, you're talking to all of these different organizations and public sector in your case, and you're developing conversations to solve their issues, and at the same time you're putting some of yourself out there. You're sharing your poetry, you're sharing your music. What happens when a music producer comes to you and says, quit this job, mate, come and be on our label?
Yeah, I'll say how much now. Nah, I'll say it's I mean,
Because that's the dream, right? That's
yeah,
that
the political answer would be, I'll cross that bridge when it comes to now. But honestly, it's a passion of mine, and like it's a hobby. So for me, that the poetry is where I think I'm most expressive. And I generally do love what I do. Like I love connecting with people, and that's the best part for me in the work that I do, is connecting with people, understanding challenges, having real conversations, and being able to bring a bit of me to it. And there's always a time and place for it, right? I'm not going to start the conversation quoting Shakespeare and stuff like that. Who's this guy? But it's about reading the room and having those conversations. But I will talk about poetry as and when I need to, and point to people. Look, if you like poetry, go on my LinkedIn and what have you, and have a view. And I think to me that it's one. It's not either or now. That's how I look at it. It's like, this is what I do, and this is where I choose to spend my time, and it's been me. So that the record labels and all that sort of stuff. If that happens in terms of forming my own one, that would be something that I would do with what I'm doing now, so to speak. I think for me, I'm really happy where I am, and I think it's because of the added bonus that I'm being myself. Like, I'm not hiding. I'm reading some poetry, but it's a weekend thing and nobody knows. And it's I'll post on the Tuesday if I need to.
So I'm going to save you, Tony, from that question. I'm going to go back to what you were talking about before, about the fact that we've got, if someone says, I'm going to be myself in an analog face-to-face world, but when it comes to digital, I'm going to be something else.
Yeah.
Isn't there a certain amount of hypocrisy there?
I mean, you could view it that way, but I understand. I speak from a personal point of view. It's fear of being judged, because if it's in person, you still feel like you're in control of it, because it's one-on-one or one to customer, depending on how many are present. So it's in that space. So even if worst case scenario, you share something about yourself and it didn't land and people didn't appreciate it, yes, you feel horrible. You feel, oh, that meeting didn't go well, but it sort of stays there. But once you share something personal online, you could have people who you don't know, potentially do a negative comment. You've got more eyes on you, maybe frowning upon it. So again, if a meeting goes not too well, unless it was terrible, it would spread like wildfire internally. But otherwise, it's sort of kept within the confinements. Maybe a manager will speak to you and work on where you can improve on. So it's safer in that regards to why people might do that. But online, it's almost open season to an extent. Or at least that's what the fear would make it feel like. So I can see why people would be more reserved in that regards, and that to me anyway, it's fear of judgment and the amount of eyes on it. So you start small, maybe you go in a safe place and base the sentiment that receives, and then you maybe do it again, and you realize, oh, there's maybe a consistent amount of people who maybe like what I'm doing. I'll do more. But the first step's always the hardest. So you've got to find something that you're comfortable revealing, and then the more you do it, then you'll reveal more if you need to.
Thank you.
So you said that you've had loads of mentors over the years that have helped you develop yourself and understand the value that you bring to the audience and how you are a special individual. Now, obviously, you are a black guy in a largely white corporate environment.
Mm.
And you're a fantastic role model for young ethnic minority or non-white people, or like Tim and me, we're cookie cutters of one another, and we represent the vast majority of people out there, which means that the workplace and the environment in which we operate in is a great deal duller than it needs to be. And people who are not like me are a breath of fresh air for me. The fact they bring a different perspective, different experiences, different passions and interests, rap music and poetry. I'm incredibly impressed, but it's not something that I've ever done or really had a great deal of interest in.
Mm-hmm.
So do you mentor young people? Because, you're an inspirational individual and people must look at you and go, I want to be like him one day. So do you mentor people? And if not, when are you going to? Because you need to, don't you?
I want to be like Tony one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to grow up to be like Tony.
Yeah, I do.
I meant I've let's say I wouldn't say in an unofficial capacity I do, if that makes sense. So in terms of if they've got my number, my phone, and then if we need to speak and they want to speak to me, they drop me a text and we have a conversation, and I'm there to offer advice, and if hopefully it resonates. So I have done that, should I say? But in terms of like an official capacity where I'm meeting people once a week or a month, no, it's more ad hoc. So I try to give my time to those who might approach me and say, can I have a conversation? Then I will. So if you want to call that mentoring, I've done that or do that, should I say? I think it's important to reach out to people, and also just on a point, I think it's weird because I don't like to sort of view myself as a role model, so to speak. But if I am, I would say it would be to any. I just see myself as a role model. Full stop. We've got black, white, pink, brown person. If there's someone they can learn from me in some aspects as well, whether it's characteristics or music, corporation, whatever that might be. So that's how I try to view myself anyway.
Brilliant.
Yeah, excellent. Every now and again, Tony, we, sometimes we're just stuck into our career path. We've got to the end of that. So, but then at the same time, it's not that easy to change. Well, it takes some effort, or at least some thinking to and also action. So, do you have advices of people who would feel stuck in their career path?
First question, I've been there where I've been stuck, and so first thing is have an honest conversation with yourself and say, why do you feel stuck? What is it? Is it the job? Is it obviously you think you should be further along in the job? Is it the pay? Is it the environment? Is it a specific person? Or is it actually none of the above and you're just not doing what you wanted to do? So I think that would be my advice to somebody there, like why. Try and identify, and then it might be because once you've recognized that and you realize, so for example, okay, I'm doing sales and IT, but actually I want to be a tennis player. Different worlds, but then once I've understood that, then I can maybe navigate and find out, okay, well, who do I need to speak to about coaching or getting into that? What money do I need to sustain the lifestyle if there's a substantial drop? You just need to identify what it is. And when I was younger and felt stuck, the mindset I had was just quit, but quit to where? So I'm leaving stuck to be stuck. So you just kind of need to understand what it is. So once you understand the why, I would say change is sort of easy. Now, there's barriers we put in our minds, like, oh, well, no, I can't leave, but you technically can. You just have to plan it well. So you go look for somewhere else. You speak to different guys to get mentorship to say, well, actually, is it within the business? Is it a new job? So you need to understand why first. And if it's actually all you could change some of that. You could change maybe how you navigate with someone that you don't get along with. Maybe have more of an honest conversation with your manager, get a mentor, and then people can start to guide you in how to work. So you need to understand why you're stuck. I think many people feel stuck, kind of,
And they quit.
yeah, they quit or they let it become them. They don't do anything about it as such, really. They just kind of continue to moan, which I've done in the past as well.
And from that perspective, what part continuous learning is kind of, is kind of one of the dimensions of that.
The continuous learning. I said this something the other day. You've got to have your own sort of moral code, right? So, like when you anything you're doing, you need to sort of know why you're doing it and what you want to get. So that the moment you're not getting that, there's your signal. Like, oh, so in my case, if I'm not able to sort of, have meaningful conversations, either with customers, prospects, colleagues, and the environment doesn't permit that self, and you're really not enjoying it, then that's the sign to say, oh, well, I'm not maybe getting the things I need, or even this stuff that I'm doing is frowned upon, and all of that, then that's if I don't do anything about that, I'll start to feel stuck, so to speak. So I think you need to have an idea of what you expect in a role, your own goals, so to speak, and if they're being met, then you're generally happy. So, for example, if more money is offered or more this is offered, you're going to stay put. You're happy. Again, many sort of don't have that, or they have maybe one layer to which is like salary. Yeah, but there's got to be more to it, I think. So I think once you have that, you can check in every 6 months or every period to say, are you getting what you need? Brilliant. That's what I've developed and learned over time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting stuff, isn't it? Because I think so often we don't invest time in thinking about what our direction is in career or life. We get into a kind of rhythm and we end up just kind of coasting.
Yeah.
And I've had that a number of times in my career where, and it has sometimes been the money, it has sometimes been the people, it has sometimes been a lack of fulfillment in the actual job itself, because I think that one of the challenges that we have, and less so with what we do and what you do, where it's very much people centric. A lot of times, you can be in an environment where what you do is quite sort of formulaic. So many years ago, I worked in a design and marketing agency, and we had one particularly big client in the photo video space, and every Easter they did one of these campaigns, and every summer they did one of these campaigns, and every Christmas they did one of these campaigns, and we were responsible working with the same people with the same brief, doing the same campaign at the same time every year, doing the same things. And it was like, even though it was not, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with working in a factory, but even though it was very much like working in a factory, where you're stamping this and moving it along and stamping this and moving it along. And, you do like 2, 3, 4 iterations of that and just go, geez, there must be more to life than this.
Yeah.
But I think often it takes like a major event to stimulate a move, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So either you get made redundant, or you lose a client, or you end up in a bust up with somebody in the office, or whatever those things are. You have that kind of aha moment. So how do you keep it fresh? Because you haven't changed role. Well, you've changed role, but you haven't changed company. But you seem more fulfilled and happy now than you were when I first met you a year or 18 months ago, or whatever. So how do you keep it fresh?
Goals that I set for myself just allows me to stay accountable. Whether I've achieved them or not, this allows me to embrace a challenge. So I know that sounds again a bit of an airy-fairy answer, but that's generally how it is. So, for example, I've changed roles. So again, set new challenges and goals for myself. The previous role, again, set challenges, do new campaigns, learn to deviate. So I think for me, I'm always setting challenges. The difference is this time, the concept of sort of failure is different now. So for me, it's I say winning and learning. So which is then it makes me more excited for the challenge. So obviously you want the outcome you want, but if you don't get the outcome you want, what did you learn? Cool. I can take what I've learned and make sure the next challenge I'm ready. You know, it's like give me another chance now. I know. I think I've got him now, or I do it like that. I always to simplify it for me. Boxing. So I love boxing. So round one, I'm sparring with a guy. He's got a ram jab, so he's hurt me with a jab. So round two, I say, okay, I need to slip his jab. It's very simple, but it's like I'm not going to. Or my ego could be like, oh, I'm going to take his jab. No, so I use what I've learned to carry on, though, not to give in or like he's too tough. So no, it's like okay, deviate, navigate, find another way. So and that's kind of how I work with it. So I look at a challenge and just tackle it. Great if I nailed it, and if I haven't, it's not. Oh, it's okay. You learn how can you incorporate it moving forward, and that's helped me to be able to be more adaptable, let's say, than I was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, this has been really great, and after spending a little bit of time with you,
Thanks,
I
Tony.
confirm that you are a rather interesting chap.
This has been excellent, Tony.
Yeah.
Absolutely excellent.
Where can we learn more? Where can people find you?
On LinkedIn, Tony Nneke on LinkedIn, and you know, I share a bit about me. So I get poetry. You'll see some poems. I'll do little sort of mindful thoughts, and obviously we'll share some stuff that's happening in Salesforce because there's some good stuff there as well. So a mixture, but yeah, so certainly learn about me there. And just reach out to me, direct message if you've got any questions. I'm always happy to talk. I like talking to people because I learn from them, and then I can use it to what I can do in my life. And I just think that's like this conversation. I've learned a lot. You've asked me questions, and I'm hearing my own answers. I like to listen and learn. So yeah, please reach out to me.
I'm sure you're going to have a lot of new friends after that. All right, thank you. We now have a newsletter. Don't miss an episode. Get the show highlights, beyond the show insights, and reminders of upcoming episodes. You can scan the QR code on screen or visit us at digitaldownload.live/newsletter. On behalf of the panelists, to our guests, and to our audience, thank you all and see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.